The title of this video is has to do with YouTube not being God and algorithms not being God, and humanity being stronger than key over algorithms at times. And I'm saying this with love and respect for YouTube, and it really doesn't just apply to YouTube. It's more of a general statement in terms of where we are in terms of humanity, algorithms, all this kind of thing. So it does have love and respect. Anyway, in my story and my life and Gentle Genius coaching, which has grown out of it, are all functions which relate to this subject matter. So I'm going to get into all of them a bit. And essentially it's about, shifting, change, like an acorn shifts underground and grows to a tree. It's about shifting the psychology of here in Massachusetts, America, and the world. So when I see algorithms operate, and the general, discourse in society, I feel like we're losing a bit of our humanity. We're grasping. And why my life and my story is special in terms of, anchoring that sense of humanity. And, I say there's three extraordinary, and I do mean extraordinary elements in my life that have affected. One goes back to my raising in Scranton, PA, and the fact that I had two grandmothers who lived over 100 years each, not to mention grandfathers who immigrated to this country, doctor, lawyer. But, typifying, those grandmothers who lived over 100 and often next door to each other. And I think of what I'm getting at there is the soups they made, right? Pea soup, chicken soup, barley soup. But, a lot was transmuted and transferred in those soups, care. And what I'm getting at is a basic care for humanity, for your children, for people in general. And so I was given a special dosage of that. They call chicken soup penicillin for the soul. I was given extra dosages of that, along with my parents who raised us, in an orderly fashion, well, mostly, and organized and all this kind of values and all this kind of thing. So I was given a deep dosage of, those basic values, and not just values and care, a sense of care. And then, came a second extraordinary factor was the huge storm. When people talk about 500 or 1,000-year storms, I tend to put the storm that came at me in that category. It was an unfathomable storm of, I don't know how much detail I want to get into, but, a younger brother, his wife, they seem to incite this thing. But, people, and what I really want to get at beyond this too, and maybe I'll get back right to the story, but it's like what people's priorities of success are, what motivates, what inspires us. And there's a lot of fear-based modalities of success, and I think this is what really traps people. So I think in a forgiving sense, if you will, still accountable, forgiving sense towards my younger brother and his wife. It's like people get ideas of success or fears in their head and start to operate in any way. But, that wasn't all of them. It was this whole accumulation of like a snowball going downhill that turned into an emotional, societal avalanche, throwing divorce, our court systems, family, rage. It all accumulated and came at me. And I don't know everything, but I know it lasted over 30 years, right? Can you imagine like people coming at you for 30 years and all this kind of thing? And so here's the real key where the turning point comes around. It's that because I had basic goodness, which is why in my life and in Gentle Genius coaching, I describe basic goodness. Because I had basic goodness and I wanted success and I had imbued senses of fairness within me, I could not give up. So that no matter how huge the second factor of this extraordinary storm was, the third extraordinary factor was my own resolve, resolution, and energy over the course of 30 years to not be beaten down by it. And when you're fighting like an avalanche that big, you can't go directly at it. You can't, and there are inequities and unfairness. It's not just taking it on one-on-one. It's also, it's going deep into the reservoir of creativity and, creating a better way, what I call it, gentle genius coaching, understandings of emotional distress and furthering a recognition of the tort for the intentional infliction of emotional distress to stop emotional abuse and which is about people feeling they're better than other people and can spike down on them and that's a real root of what challenges society. And I've stood in there to push back and say, we need a better way. And sincerely, my efforts over the course of 30 years became that third extraordinary factor. And so what I'm getting at is that, and when I talk about algorithms, that we need to reinsert humanity in. Because, YouTube, they can look at me and say, oh, you look at this video, you search here, but they don't know my story. Do you see what I'm saying? I have a unique story. And a lot of people have unique stories in their own stories. So what they look at a surface level. Sometimes people may view something online and they need a release, they need to laugh, whatever it be. And algorithms don't always know that. They don't see the human being underneath, which is why I wrote a book, Iceberg, with looking down deep underneath the surface, what's going on. And so the suggestion I have, the recommendation I have is that algorithms, what everybody's pursuing, let's be clear, what everybody's pursuing at this point in time, in some ways, is success, right? Money, fame, views, whatever it be, clicks. Everybody wants some type of success. And what I'm saying is let's recognize that. And let's say that, humanity does well when most of us succeed. So rather than, creating these fear-induced models, these algorithms which spew people out and put some here and some there, we need to go back and somehow create a human algorithm. We need to put humanity back into it. And so that, people just aren't judged on, it could be politics, it could be a bank, it could be a social media algorithm. People aren't just judged on a certain number, that we get to know the heart of people. And that's what our Gentle Genius coaching does for companies, families, and individuals. It helps you find, a heart, what I call an essence. Your purpose is really even deeper, maybe into your soul. Who are you really? And not only do you find that and then forge it into something strong, a third key point is that I help you, communicate it appropriately and assertively, because you can't be angry in this world. You'll be pushed back. You can't be passive or you get stepped on. The magic in our work a lot of the times is becoming assertive, learning what it means to be appropriate. So you don't have to worry about every ism or attack from here or there. You can be appropriate in the first place, be fair, and then you have a resilience that you can go on and navigate. And as I say, communicate that appropriately. So you can take a look at our website, gentlegeniuscoaching.com. But that's what it's about. It's restoring, it's pushing back against the purely, technical aspects of algorithms and finding a way to reinsert that humanity. And as I say, the three extraordinary factors in my life means that I believe I have a unique role in terms of asserting and standing for that that humanity. I don't want to too much feel like the Lorax in the Dr. Seuss book, because that wasn't the happiest story. They were down to one truffula seed. I'd like to think, I do believe that we have more positive energy, and that YouTube and other giants can adjust algorithms and learn that if we lose humanity, there's not a lot of point. You can pile dollars after dollars after dollars, but if you're not really creating human value and uplifting humans, as my work does, and I can help companies figure out how to do it, then we're really we're not in a good place. And I want us to be in a good place. And Gentle Genius Coaching helps you get to a good place. So